Hello and welcome to Sean Ruins Fitness. I'm here with my friend Dan. I'm the owner of JRT Fit, J Range Training, as well as a fellow with the National Board of Fitness Examiners. And we are here to discuss various topics that relate to exercise as well as nutrition. And I'm here to ruin the ideas that are presented within the actual industry because in all honesty, a lot of the people just are not teaching what either the science actually backs or they're teaching one side of it. They kind of cherry pick the science to fit with their worldview,
Philosophy.
what they believe it should actually be.
It happens
Yeah, exactly.
a lot.
It does happen a lot.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I don't like it at all. So once again, it's important to note that I actually don't tell Dan what we're talking about before we do this. And this is just a discussion. It's something that we roll with. I don't even take notes for what we're going to talk about. We just pick a topic. I pick a topic to talk about, and we talk about it. So this is kind of a fun
Yeah. He keeps me in the
setup and
closet on
everything.
this.
What's
He
that?
keeps me in the closet on this.
Yeah,
I
I
have
do.
absolutely no clue to what he's going to start with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's more fun that way for me. I don't know
For
about
him,
you,
for
but
me,
this is
I'm kind of,
Surprised you keep showing up.
well, I might go back in the closet. That's another.
Don't do that.
That's for
Don't do
another
that.
topic, another day.
So we also want to do some actual other interviews as well as debates. So if you happen to disagree with me on any of these topics and you are within my industry, I'd love to set up some sort of debate where we actually talk on this. And I'd actually like to go out in the public too and kind of see if just everyone else wants to talk as well. And
Might
that's
be
kind of an
interesting.
interesting idea, right?
Yeah.
We may have some interviews. We'll kind of see how everything goes. But just wanted to let everyone know our format here. And the topic today that I wanted to talk about is stretching. Specifically,
Is
stretching.
stretching.
Stretching muscles.
Right.
But specifically, stretching before your workouts.
Or after.
Well, and I'm going to bust a few of the ideas presented by my industry or people within the industry that still promote the incorrect idea of stretching before a workout is good. That is a wrong idea. In most cases, however, I want to describe it and I want to explain it in a way where people all understand when it's appropriate. There are times that it's appropriate. Most of the time it's not. I want to lay that out there.
What are you talking
Okay.
about, Willis?
So let's go back to what you were taught about stretching before you work out. Long time ago, school, whatever it is.
Well, you know, I've been skiing for 50 years. I consider myself a good skier, you know. But the game was you get out there, you do your stretches front and back, left to right, you
Sure.
know, and you twist and you do all that, and you jump out there, you get on the lift.
Right.
That was
And what's the idea behind that? Why are people telling you that? You said you're part of the ski patrol as well. So this is something that
ski
you're
school, ski patrol,
So you're
both.
teaching people this.
That was in the 70s
Sure.
and
While
you know,
back.
early 80s, and yes, it was
A couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, yeah, just last weekend, in fact. But yeah, that was what the rule was. Hey, when you get out there, stretch, twist, you know, crunch
But
up.
why?
It's like,
Why? What's the reason? Why are they saying to do that?
I was a kid. I didn't care.
They didn't tell you why. They just said
No.
do it.
This
Do
is-
it and monkey
You
see,
went
monkey
to a
do.
class,
That's what-
monkey see. That was one of my routines was with the kids. It was monkey see, monkey do. Follow me, do as I do.
But not with any good explanation as to why.
We would show up in a class in the lodge, and he'd say, "Okay, these are the stretches you do in the morning. Stand in front of your class, do these, show them."
Did you ever think
Yeah.
about why you were doing them? Did you ever think about that?
No.
Or did you just follow, I'm going to
Well,
do it
they-
because that's what I was taught? And
They showed us a video of a Japanese corporation, and in the morning everybody's doing calisthenics. He goes, "They have a top-notch corporation.
Sure.
They seem to be doing
They
very
must know
well.
what it is. Yeah,
It's obviously something is good."
absolutely.
And I thought maybe it just gets your blood flowing,
Sure.
and you know gets you going. But so does coffee. So does a near wreck on the highway.
Now I'm making you think already, aren't I?
You
Making
know.
you think, and that's a good thing. So I still come across numerous people all the time that actually have their kids stretching before they do workouts at their actual schools. And I have to deal with this as well. And I've talked to the gym coaches, and a lot of them are fine with my kids not stretching beforehand because I tell them that I don't want them to. But I don't really explain all the reasons. I don't know if they want to know. But I think that there's a mentality that's just been taught. It's just my gym coach taught me, their gym coach taught them, their gym coach taught them. So it's kind of a hierarchy of, oh, you just listen because...
Nobody's ever challenged it.
Right. This is kind of what we did.
Nobody's ever challenged it.
Well, not for a while, until 2004. See.
Who challenged it? No 4.
In 2004, there was basically a study done on marathon runners. And they put them in 2 different categories. One category were the runners that stretched before the marathon. The other category were the runners that did not stretch before the marathon.
Okay.
The runners who stretched before the marathon had a statistically significantly higher injury rate than the ones who did not. And we talked about on the last podcast we did what statistically significant means. So that means that there was a greater than 5% or greater difference in the number of injuries from the group who actually stretch beforehand versus not. And so real quick though, that is a large population study. So that could be misconstrued as well as evidence that it's not good. Right there, all that is possible correlation. It doesn't prove anything. It just says, we should maybe look into this further.
Yeah, doesn't hurt to.
Right? So that's exactly what we did in the industry is we said, okay, we're going to start looking at stretches. And so there were numerous studies done after that, just attempting to figure this out. So the studies where they would basically test the force production and then stretch a muscle that pertains to that force production.
Right.
And then wait a specific segment. So some of the studies were 30 seconds or a minute. Other studies were 10 or 15 minutes later. And then test the force production again. And so they wanted to see if there was a difference with force production, if that's one of the reasons. And with every single study, they noticed that stretching always decreased their force production.
Interesting.
Statistically significantly, basically made it so they weren't as strong. So there was a definite difference for how long they waited. So if they waited for 15 minutes, they had more force production back than if they did it right away, right afterwards.
So would it make sense that if you took your dog out for a long walk and when you got back, you were getting into the living room, you stretched before you sat down?
Well, let's not jump to any conclusions yet, because all we know now is that stretches decrease force production. We still haven't dove really into when is it good to stretch. Because I'm also going to make an argument that there are times that you should statically stretch a muscle before you work out. Even after what I just said. Have I piqued your interest yet?
Yeah. You said one thing and then you said do and then you said don't and then don't and then you said do. But I mean, I'm thinking about what could it possibly be, and I do fly fish a lot.
Yeah, you mentioned that a couple of times. I think you
to an obsession.
I think you might have a fly fishing brain going on here.
It's become an obsession.
Well, at least that's the first step, is admitting that you have a problem, Dan.
I have a lot of other problems.
I don't remember the second step. What's the second step? Is saying it out loud
drinking.
or something? Oh, drinking to cover
drinking.
it up?
I don't even try to cover it up anymore. I just do it flat out. All kidding aside, I find that if I'm on the river, there are slippery rocks. I will stretch.
Okay.
I do knee and ankle twists, and that way if it slips, I'm ready, but I do carry.
See, I'm making you reflect, and that's a good thing. I'm making you think about different times. And we can talk about specific circumstances, but I kind of want to break down with what's going on. Like when, why, what's happening here?
I feel it loosens up the joint. It loosens it up, and I feel a little bit more, a little quicker.
Well, you have a couple of different reasons to stretch, okay? One of the reasons could be that your muscles are too tight together and you need to loosen them up. They're overactive is the term that we use. So there are too many that are, they may not be overactive, but they, if this is a muscle right here, so this is a muscle with the actin and myosin filaments, the smallest breakdown of what a muscle is, the little protein filaments. Okay, we always show them overlapped like this. And the truth is, though, is that they actually are not always perfect like this. In different positions, they can actually be too close this way, which makes it and make it harder to move, but it's more than likely because of a buildup of different things like lactic acid, carbon dioxide, nitrogen, a lot of maybe even dead cells. Those are essentially clogging it.
How do you get rid of that, though?
Well, that's the thing is that's massage, stretching, foam rolling. Those things can actually break that up. So you could have fibrosis that can be broken up, or sometimes people call them fascicles or trigger points. Those can be broken up, which can actually make it so that you don't have all that in there. Of course, that goes into your blood, so you might have a momentary lapse in judgment with your brain at that point after all these toxins get up there.
Kind of like going to a Grateful Dead concert.
I wouldn't know. Do tell.
We'll do that on another time.
Oh.
We'll talk about completely different subjects.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. But we'll leave that one alone.
For a while.
So the truth is, though, is that, this position actually can vary a lot with the neutral position. That's saying that this is neutral, but that's not always
right.
Neutral. It could be out, it could be in. They actually separate, and when we stretch them, they can come really far apart from each other. They're still connected with the Z line connected from the actual myosin itself with something called troponin, not troponin. I said that wrong. Titin protein. Titin. I have a little bit of dyslexia sometimes. I just call something wrong. But
me too.
Titin protein acts kind of like a rubber band. If it goes too far, then it kind of snaps back. But obviously, the stretch studies show that snapback doesn't happen immediately.
Okay.
It happens through time. And so the likelihood is that we're pulling them apart and making it so that the muscles can't actually contract efficiently. And that leads us to having less force production because of it. Does that make a little bit more sense?
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit? What do I need to describe? What am I missing here? I want to make sure everyone understands.
I think it was a little too technical.
Okay. So you stretch a muscle, you loosen the muscle, it stays loose for a little bit while it works on coming back to where it should be.
I understand.
And while it's loose, it's not going to work as well.
So it's better to keep it tight?
It's better to keep it tight. However, everyone has muscle imbalances. Now, what is a muscle imbalance? A muscle imbalance is when you have imbalanced muscles, just like what it says. You have one that's overactive and one that's underactive. That's the opposite of it. So antagonists.
I have that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we've talked about your muscle imbalances.
My right arm is great when there's a beer. And then, yes, I understand, yes.
Yeah, I don't think we're on the same page here.
But I get what you mean, though.
So, with the muscle imbalance, that tight muscle is too tight. It's too shortened. It's too in that shortened position like this. So I would argue that it's actually more beneficial for you to stretch that beforehand because it's like this and you need it to get to here.
Mm-hmm.
So stretching that overactive muscle is vital in order to make sure that everything actually works properly.
So would a light stretch work?
A static light stretch is good in that circumstance. However, how do you know if it's overactive? That's the trick.
You know what? At 7:40 in the morning, and you're standing in 8-degree weather, and it's snowing, and you're in your gear and the helmet's on, you just want to get on the damn lift. You just say, get me on the lift.
Well, cold can restrict things, so that's possible that with that cold. But you have to be careful with cold because if you stretch a cold muscle, it actually doesn't do as well, so you can actually injure it a lot easier than if you stretch a warm muscle. So if a cold muscle is being stretched, you actually need to lighten up your stretch a little bit. You can't stretch it as much, or you shouldn't stretch as much.
I've been stretching before skiing for 5 decades.
Right.
And I've never had any problems, knees, ankles, or hips, or anything. Thumbs I've broken twice. But other than that, I stretched every day. I never really had any issues. Never really thought about
Sure.
it. After
Sure.
skiing, what did we do? It was either the hot tub or, mostly it was a bar, and then the hot tub.
Well, let's talk about the hot tub in a second here, because that's actually another thing. You could use a hot tub to stretch, but we'll talk about that in a second here. But first, let's back up. And yeah, if you haven't had any knee issues and you've been skiing and stretching beforehand, I'm not saying that stretching beforehand is going to cause a problem with injury necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
It's just going to make it so things don't work as well. So if they don't work as well, you will more than likely wear a joint faster. But that doesn't mean that it's going to snap
Mm-hmm.
within, before you're 60. It just means that if it snaps when you're 60, when you do that, it may have waited until you're 70 or 75 to snap if you did everything a lot better.
Well, I am getting a knee issue on both knees right now
Ah.
at 57.
There you go. There you
They
go.
are on the outside, cartilage is fine. On the inside, it's pretty much, there's nothing.
The medial collateral ligament?
Yeah, that one.
That one?
What did he say? I have no idea.
Or the cartilage? The cartilage is the meniscus.
It's on the inside of my knee.
The cartilage on the inside or the ligament on the inside?
The inside of my knee hurts.
Okay.
So
It could be anything.
And I was at my doctor, and he goes, "Oh yeah," he goes, "You have in between the bone here, there is material. On here, there isn't."
Okay, that's probably the meniscus then, which is the cartilage.
He says in the years to come,
Yeah.
I'll be 58 in a few weeks, and he goes, by 62, 3, 4, he goes, you may need knee replacements.
And I would argue that is part of what happens, because if you end up stretching something and then using something when it's not as capable of being used, for example, you stretch your quads and then you use them with skiing. Well, the quadricep muscles are the only muscles that actually attach to the patella itself.
To the knee.
The kneecap, in other words. And so that protects the position of the patella as well as everything around it and under it and everything else. And you have other support systems of the knees. However, that's one of the most important ones. So you stretch that and make it so it doesn't work as well. You have to transfer that stress somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So you are transferring more stress to your actual joints because the muscles actually don't have as much on there. So I would recommend
the patella is a kneecap.
Kneecap, yes.
Sounds like something on an Italian menu. That's why I was just curious. A
Does
patella.
it sound good? Like yummy?
If there's cheese on it, yeah.
You'll have a patella with
I'll have some
cheese?
patella with cheese and some bread, some
Does it go with fettuccine or with
linguine.
or is it a meat? Is that what it sounds
I
like?
would
Or
say,
a type
yeah.
of noodle?
I
Mixture of both, perhaps.
I used to go to this place that was a pretty rough neighborhood. They used to serve broken leg of lamb.
Wow,
These guys were
broken
tough.
leg.
They were tough there. They were tough. Telling you.
Yeah, I don't. If you do see patella on the menu, I wouldn't order it.
Well,
Just my advice.
if you put an Italian accent on it, it might be okay.
So tell me that.
Patella.
Patella.
There you go.
Hey,
Yeah,
get
put a
the,
Brooklyn accent
get
spin
the
on it.
patella on it.
We'll get Luigi to bring out some fresh patella.
Would you like some patella with the fettuccine?
I mean, it's patella. I was like, what is it?
Yeah, that's a kneecap bone. That's the bone
Kneecap.
itself.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, that's the bone right there. That's what the official name is the patella. So, and thank you for keeping me down to earth. I tend to go kind of a little
Technical.
nerdy at times. Yeah, we'll call it
No.
technical. No, yeah, I do.
Not
I know.
you.
Super surprising, right?
I know it gets a little technical with it. That's why it's
But that's why he's here.
To me,
Take me down and help me understand that I need to talk to
understand it
everyone.
from a caveman level. Most guys, it's like 1 beer, 2 beers. Good, 3 beers, better.
We should have called this Sean Ruins Fitness with the troglodyte.
With a troglodyte. Right.
Once again, technical.
A cave-dwelling troglodyte.
So, all right, caveman means troglodyte is caveman. That's the official.
There's redundancy there.
Yeah, it's fine. That just shows I I use words I shouldn't, maybe. Anyway,
Me too.
so
Just
we're not
here.
talking about that.
Okay, moving on then.
Moving back. Okay, so hot tubs. I said that you can, if you stretch a cold muscle, like if you wake up in the morning, you want to go a little bit lighter, but when you stretch a warm muscle, you could definitely stretch more. Does that mean you want to? I'm going to argue that you actually shouldn't. And if you do, you should go really easy on purpose, because something happens when you're in a hot tub where you vasodilate, is what it's called. So your arteries and your veins get larger to allow more blood to flow because of the heat. And so that makes it easier for you to stretch.
Does it work with steam rooms?
Yes. Anytime that you do anything, it's easier when it's actually submerged because it's warm faster. That whole homeostasis, like attempting to hit that a little bit faster. But yes, anytime you're heating yourself up at all, whether it's that or heating pads or anything else, you can stretch yourself easier, but that doesn't mean you should stretch as far. That means that you shouldn't stretch quite as much because you can overstretch at that point. And the purpose of stretching, like I said, it could be for the blood flow. It could be for flexibility as well. So that's a different way. So when you're stretching for flexibility, you need at least a 20-second stretch according to research. So I generally tell people 30 because I find that most people just don't actually time themselves. They count randomly and they'll say, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And by the time they get to 20, they've done 10 seconds. So,
guys are terrible with math like that.
Yeah. Or looking at a clock.
Right. Yeah. We always have our clock in the shower, Don't you keep a clock in the shower?
Clock in the shower?
Yeah, you keep it when you're taking, or like if you were stretching in hot water.
Oh, when I'm in a shower, I'm out before 5 minutes. I don't even.
Really?
Yeah.
You'll learn to appreciate standing in the hot water going, oh, this is good.
I do too for like 2 minutes, and I'm like, okay, I'm done. And I don't have time
Amateur.
anymore, so yeah, well, maybe
Once you get older, you'll stand there going, this is good. I wonder how much more hot water there is. And do I care if the next person gets in cold water? Unless it's your wife.
You're not married.
Nothing. That's why I'm not married.
Oh.
Why is there no hot water? I don't know.
You told me once. Anyways.
I don't know why there's no hot water.
I think we might find out a lot of reasons why you're not married here.
Whew. There's a lot of reasons.
Talked about, let's see, it was cabbage was one.
Oh, yeah.
There was...
You're locked in a car after eating cabbage. Not good. Not good. Elevators, gondolas.
So, but going back to stretching, we got to talk back about that.
Lots of cabbage, okay.
Stretch, 30 seconds is great. I believe that a minute is better. There's really nothing but anecdotal evidence that shows that stretching longer is actually better, but I believe it's better from anecdotal evidence that I've personally done myself as well as witnessed. And so I would recommend to hold that. However, it's important to know how hard to stretch. So when you're actually stretching, a lot of times people go too hard with their stretching. They stretch into like the 8 out of 10, I really feel this level of stretch, 8 out of 10 pain, where it's like, oh yeah, I really feel a good stretch here, right?
If you just sit in the hot tub and don't stretch, is that beneficial also?
Yeah, absolutely. But we're not talking about the hot tub anymore. We're talking about actual stretching. And that, okay. I don't think that stretches or that's helpful with stretching, no. But the vasodilation can help in other ways from the hot tub. At the same time, you are getting a rather large quantity of bacteria, especially with those public hot tubs.
Oh, those scare me. Those scare me. I don't mind Glenwood Hot Springs or.
So if you ever put your ears
others
under the water or nose or anything like that, it's a little gross. So don't do that. I would not recommend to do that.
Yeah.
So, but with stretching, just static stretching, that's what we're talking about right now. We can talk about dynamic here in a second, but static stretches, you want to hold them for basically up to a minute, in my opinion. And like I said, all anecdotal. There's no evidence that actually supports the minute, but there is a lot of evidence that supports the at least 20 to 30 seconds. And what also helps is, like I said, not an 8 out of 10 pain, but actually stretching at a 4 out of 10 pain. You actually get the exact same results stretching a 4 out of 10 as you do 8 out of 10. So there's no point in going to the 8 out of 10, because you can overstretch. You could actually cause an injury by stretching too much. In fact, there's something called a myotatic reflex that happens where usually you're lifting weights with this. It's not just caused from overstretching without lifting weights, but if you're doing something and you're lifting too much weight, whether it's trying to pick up a car or something that's audacious like that, your muscles will freak out because they're too stretched in order to make that contraction happen very well, and it's going to hurt it if it goes more into a stretch, so they essentially hyper contract in order to prevent an injury. It's like what happens when someone throws their back out. When someone throws their back out, that's essentially the spinal erector muscles, so the long muscles that keep you upright in the back, that freak out and contract because you leaned over and stretched them
Too far
for that amount of actual stress that you're putting on them. And there are other reasons with that. That's generally because of a muscle imbalance and a muscle weakness that you have from the transversus abdominis is what it starts with. But the result of that is that myotatic reflex of I'm going to stay locked, and I'm going to stay locked for days to make sure that you don't hurt yourself. It's a protection because you overstretched with too much stress.
So that's where the Three Stooges sound comes from. When you go, yeah. Because I've had that back thing before.
Right.
You know, you're doing something like.
Thought you were going to talk about the whoop, 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 whoop.
You move like you're picking up something like a keg.
Yeah.
You know, I've been in the liquor business. So you move a keg and so you go, ah.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
it hurts. And I find my hot tub, which is only used by me or my son, nobody gets in there. My friends are pigs. They're filthy. They don't get in there. They want to use something with hot water, they can sit in the shower.
I'm going later just because he said that.
Don't listen to him. He's not invited. Maybe. But bottom line is, I will sit in the hot tub if I've tweaked my back, and I find that it relaxes. A lot of people say, well, take a muscle relaxer. It'll make it better. I'm anti-drugs. I don't like all this opioid stuff and any of that stuff. No, there's natural ways of resolving muscle problems from sciatica on down the line.
And I'm not anti-drug. I think that there are
Within
pharmaceuticals that are necessary.
I'm just anti-opiate stuff.
But and I've actually known people on those that I think needed them as well.
There are some people that definitely need them.
However, it definitely should be a last
resort
on that. And I think that as far as the hot tub goes, you're right. That is a fantastic way to loosen up your muscles and make it kind of feel a little bit better with the heat. And that's heating pads works as well, things like
Very
that.
hot showers.
If something's inflamed, you want cold. So if anything's inflamed from an injury or anything like that, you actually want to cool it before you do any heat at all.
Okay.
So if someone's ankle looks 3 times the size of what it's supposed to, then that's the time to do ice, not heat. However, that should be iced for 10 to 15 minutes only. Don't ever do more than 15 minutes because then you're actually cutting the blood circulation, and cutting blood circulation makes it so that blood doesn't flow as well, and we need blood to do everything. So you want to decrease the inflammation to increase the blood. That's kind of the whole point.
So inflammation, it's
ice.
Cold. Ice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Ice. Yeah.
Well, we have a lot of people in government who can stick their head in something ice. That's another story.
I think that's a lot of people in a lot of different fields, in all fairness.
Ain't that a truth?
I mean, what we're talking about, I think the majority, there are a lot of people that teach stretching beforehand. I don't think their heads necessarily deserve to be in ice, but they can't get swollen when you attempt to bring something up that they're offended by. They don't like to have someone say, "Oh, well, you might not be accurate with that," and they're like, "What? I'm offended." It's like, no. We just want to have a talk.
Everybody's offended anymore.
Yeah, let's not get offended by anything. It's just a talk. I just want to have a discussion.
Right.
And so going back though to the stretching. So
right.
The timing we talked about the how far you actually stretch. We talked about static stretching.
Right.
In research, there is actually an even more beneficial type of stretching called PNF. And I'm glad you asked what that means.
Well, I was just going to say, what exactly is that?
Proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation is what it stands for. So
Of
aren't you
course
glad
it is.
that I told you that?
We'll
So
all
now
remember
you-
that. There will be a
Yeah,
test
exactly.
on this later.
Well, they have the benefit that they can rewind and keep listening to it until they get it or
PMF.
type it into
Poor
Google.
me.
So yeah, no.
Whatever.
Anyways, so the proprioceptive neuromuscular, we'll call it PNF. We'll just call it PNF stretching is an assisted stretch with someone who knows what they're doing. You can't just go out and do it. You don't want to do this with a friend. This is someone where you have to come to a professional for because they can once again overstretch you. They will take your stretch past that 4 out of 10 level with the static, but then there's a certain thing that they do where they have you contract the actual muscle that you're stretching for an 8-second period of time and then back off for 8 seconds and keep repeating that for a
I've
certain
seen
period
this.
and then moving it. And that actually has been shown in research to be even more effective at increasing flexibility specifically
Hmm.
than static stretching.
We see it at the Olympics, don't we? When the gymnasts are there and they have the coaches.
I haven't ever been to the Olympics.
No, I mean watching
I,
on TV.
I don't know.
Do you ever watch the Olympics?
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
Love the Olympics.
Yeah, I went to the Olympics in '72, but after that, that was it.
That's kind of cool, actually.
It was.
Where was that? 72?
Munich.
Munich?
I was in Munich in '72, right before the incident, and we saw a few things. We saw the swimming. Mark Spitz was there, and then we went back. I lived 50 kilometers away, and it was a couple days later when the incident went down.
Wow.
And so we were there post, and I still have all my pins and my little badges and stuff that you get when you go through the doors. But yeah,
Wow, that's cool.
the Olympics
That's
are very
cool.
interesting. I would have liked to have gone to the Salt Lake City one, but
Yeah,
eh,
could make it.
couldn't make it.
That's all right.
2002, kids were young,
Sure.
money
Lot-
was tight.
Lot on your plate.
Not on my plate. You know, you
I
can't
got
just
that.
run out and go to the Olympics when you have a 10 and a 12-year-old. It's not in
Well,
the
you
budget.
probably shouldn't.
It's not in the budget.
Yeah,
No.
exactly. If you can't afford it. So that's pretty cool. That's a cool story. Thanks for
But
sharing
don't they? I've seen. I watch the Olympics, the winter mostly, and you see the skiers, and they have their trainer, their
Yep.
handler, and they're like Lindsey Vaughn
that. Sure.
or Michaela.
Yep.
And they're stretching their leg. You know, they're on their back and they're bending. I see
They
that.
may or may not be. I'd have to see footage of what they're actually doing to
Mm-hmm.
tell you if it's a PNF or not. It's not a lot of movement. So if they're doing a lot of movement, back and forth with their leg, then no, that's not PNF. If it's
I wouldn't
mostly sitting in one position, but
They're usually on their back, and they have one leg on the ground, one leg up, and they're bending their leg towards their chest.
is it moving?
Yes, but minimal
And then
increments. Minimal increments, back
Yeah.
and forth.
Probably not PNF. May have something else, but I'd have to look.
Yeah.
I'd have to look.
Anyway, let's just
So yes, I have seen a lot of Olympians do static stretching before their events, which I feel like a lot of times they would actually do far better not doing that. So it kind of surprises me that they still kind of hold to that philosophy when I feel like an Olympian should have trained really super well to not have overactive muscles to make it so that they were pristine, and they should do a warm up, but not a stretch.
But I've even seen Bruce Lee before he gets into his
Sure,
thing. He's dancing around. He's crunch, crunch, crunch,
sure.
doing all these moves. And, that was 60s and early
Now
70s.
he was doing a lot of dynamic stretching too, and we haven't talked about that. That's where you do your kicks that you're going to do, but a little bit less, and then you work on kind of moving up. You don't
You step
start
up.
with the highest kick possible.
Here, here, here.
Right, and I would agree with that, especially for that sort of sport, that's a great idea. That's a way to kind of work your way up to that. And they do a lot of dynamic stretching at other events as well. The butt kickers is a form of dynamic stretching of the quadriceps. Now, I don't always agree with it. I don't think that it's always necessary. And to be honest, I haven't read a lot of support in the Science Journal articles. I've searched for it, and it doesn't. The ones that I've read basically say it doesn't seem to make a huge difference, but mentally people feel like it does. So
True.
if you have a placebo, use the placebo. That's kind of the idea on that. That doesn't mean that physiologically it's actually benefiting them other than the mental.
A lot of people see it and they think it's real.
Sure, absolutely.
Because their mind is able to convince them of, oh no, that's good.
And
That's right.
that's why there is something called the placebo effect, which
Truly.
basically they give someone something that will not cause any effect on what they're measuring,
But they think.
but
it
they
does.
believe that they're getting the real thing,
Mhm.
which is why they do the double-blind placebos.
Right.
And so the group that has the placebo still will show some sort of a positive result. And that just shows the power of our minds. If we believe that something's helping us, then it is.
So now we just have to find a way of training the mind to adjust around it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's a
Because
lot of
there's a
mental
lot-
training, and I'll have to think about if there's a Sean Ruins Fitness topic that deals with that, where they're not following that. And I think there is. So I think we can do a podcast
I'll
on that.
find
Now
something
that I
on
just
it.
thought on that. Well, now that I just think about it, I think there is, and there's even the Wim Hof guy. Have you heard of that guy?
Who?
Wim Hof. He's figured out this method of actually taking really cold showers and figuring out how to.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
And that's
how to
been
control
happening
your
for
body
years,
temperature and sitting in
where
the snow and
At the
things
end
of
of
that
your
nature.
shower, you turn off the hot and you put on the coldest water you can, and then you stand in it for 45
and you
seconds.
convince yourself that you're comfortable. That's the trick. That's what he
I
says
haven't
to
got
do.
to that point. I just stand in it going, damn,
But
this is
he
cold.
actually said, don't ever take the hot shower. You just do the cold.
Oh, the heck with the hot thing. I like hot. I don't care what is. But I do this the 45 to 60 seconds afterwards. In Europe,
It's kind
that's
of interesting,
not an
though.
uncommon
That's-
practice.
So there is some mental stuff, and there's some stuff that I can attribute that to that I've studied previously, previous to him becoming famous with that. But anyways, that can apply to the gym as well, is what I'm saying. And
Right.
I know that my fitness industry is not utilizing that, and that is a mistake because there's so much in the mental aspect of everything that we should be. And so anyways, that's totally off topic for stretching. So we talked about dynamic, we talked about static, we talked about PNF, and I did mention massage. Massage is actually a form of stretching. So I do think that and foam rolling is actually very beneficial.
Agreed.
But sometimes the nerves do not have the right amount of blood flow going to them to send the right signal to everything to make everything work properly. So sometimes it's actually a nerve issue for the reason that the muscles aren't working. And I actually work on people's nerves for that purpose. I actually worked on
My
your
ex-wife.
nerve. I actually worked on your nerve like
Yeah.
that.
You've worked
Why
on
don't you
my
tell-
my ex-wife has worked on my nerves, but that's another story. I actually, with my sciatica, which I've never had before, and I could not figure out what it was, why it was killing me on my leg, and I came and I saw you,
Yeah.
and we've known
And
each
what
other
happened?
for decades.
Well,
And I
and-
told you what this hurts, and you went, "Oh yeah, you have sciatica." Like, "Oh yeah, like, oh yeah, you got brown hair. No big thing." And I went, "Yeah, maybe to you, but this hurts." Hurts.
and then what did I tell you?
You put me on that stretcher.
Well,
And-
before that, I told you that I can fix
Fix it.
that in 4 to 6 weeks because
That
it's
is true.
it's
That
a
is
nerve
true.
issue.
You did. You said you could fix it in 4 to 6 weeks. It wasn't 6 weeks. It was less, I believe.
Mhm.
And it went away. And now the first few times I was like, man, it still hurts. It hurts. God, it hurts. And it really hurts. And when you have pain, you're not a happy person. In fact,
Well, you
you're
could
a flat out
couldn't
grouch.
even stand without pain. You said
Oh,
you
God,
were
I
having trouble
couldn't-
walking and doing any.
I
sort of
couldn't do
activity.
anything. I could not even fish, walk the trails, ride my bike, nothing.
You've heard how much he likes fishing.
God help me, I fish a lot. But the second time it was like, okay, maybe the first didn't do squat. The second was like, all right, and I went home and I thought, well, maybe a little. And on the third time I went, all right, I'm feeling something. By the fourth or fifth time, I was like, oh, okay, I'm feeling something here. And then one day I got up and it was gone. And I'm not using Advil, Aleve, any drugs, anything. Not smoking anything, not drinking anything. No
It's important to note in
alternatives.
Colorado.
Even in Colorado, I mean, it was, you can smoke weed here, but nothing. I've been in the liquor business, no alcohol, no anything, just simple and straight. Laying on a hard bed, I found at the time was helpful because it kept me rigid. A pillow under my knees helped.
While you're getting through it, yeah.
And other than that, one day I got up and it was gone. Just gone. And I was just floored. And I came in, saw you again, and you went, basically, you just went, told you. Told you. It has never come back.
When was
It
that?
is.
How long ago?
Oh, it's been a couple years now, a few years,
Yeah.
and
think it's
I
been
have
2
not
years
even
now.
had the slightest of even a notion that it ever existed or happened or anything. Like it never existed.
So that's a perfect example, and I know that's an extreme case with sciatica, where you actually have that massive amount of pain
Oh.
shooting down your leg. But
It was bad, bad.
But
bad,
nerve
bad.
issues are pretty big, and unfortunately, there aren't a lot of people that will actually work on nerves. There are a lot of people that work on muscles,
Hmm.
and a lot of physical therapists even will say, "I do not want to touch a nerve," because they are afraid that when they've pinched a nerve before, when they push on a nerve, then someone will have this weird tingling feeling, and they're afraid of that, and they don't understand when it's okay and when it's not. But when you're sitting on the toilet for too long, for example, you have those tingling feelings in your feet. And what that tingling is that's blood going back after it was cut off for a period of time. So it's actually not a bad thing. It's actually a beneficial thing. It says that things are waking up. And I have a lot of stories that go with that, but I figured that should be a topic here because there are some times that people are so tight and they don't understand why they're tight. There's definitely genetic dispositions for tightness where some people are just have the natural more tightness gene, we'll say, versus the having more loose muscles. And I didn't say morals, I said muscles.
Oh no, loose morals. I thought he said loose morals. My bad.
Sorry, Dan.
Well, the cat's out of the bag now.
Sorry for exposing that.
It's okay. There's been other things that were exposed. My phone number will be on the website for any of you who view that. Follow me.
Dan, are you trying to pick up on my viewers, our viewers?
Absolutely. No, I'm
He's obviously
kidding.
available.
Not to the guys.
So, but yeah, the help on the nerves, pressure on the nerves is actually very beneficial. I wish more therapists would actually do it, but I do it, and I help a lot of people with that, and I have a lot of great feedback from that and stories. And
I think it works. I mean, you have shown me, literally, with no joking around, when I came in here with that sciatic nerve issue, I simply could not even walk. I couldn't do anything. I was almost incapacitated by the immense pain that it was giving me daily, continuously, nonstop.
Yep.
And after a few times in here, and I must admit, that thumb in my back thing you did, where you buried your thumb in me, it was, at first, the pain was like, oh my God, that just hurts. But then after a while, I'm going, well, that pain ain't so bad. Do that again. And, and he was like, and for 45 minutes, he put his thumb, if not more, buried it into my shoulder blade or somewhere back in here.
And I got to be honest, I don't actually like doing it because it actually hurts. It doesn't feel very nice with my thumb.
And you had said so. You said, my thumb hurts. I'm
enjoy
tired.
doing it for the reason that it gives people results. So that's the reason I do that.
It really did.
So if you do any sort of manual therapy on nerves, I would love to talk to you. I'd love to refer people to you, whatever state you're in. This is something that's huge. It helps a lot of people.
And if you have sciatica or anything like that, listen to him. I'm proof this worked.
This is off on a tangent we weren't planning on.
Right, but it works.
We weren't planning on anything. But let's go. I think we covered everything with stretching. Can you think of any other questions that comes to mind? I think we're good. I think we're golden. I think we hit all the points.
I mean,
make sure to. Oh no, I did not say one thing. There's one thing I didn't say is frequency. Very important. How often do you stretch? So I believe stretching after a workout is obviously better for every single muscle. So stretch everything afterwards. If you have overactive muscles, it's totally fine to do them before. If you know that they're overactive, don't just guess based on feeling. Find someone who actually does a muscle imbalance assessment to figure that out, and they'll give you a plan. I always text people exactly which muscles they should stretch on a daily basis. But then
stretch in the morning.
If they're overactive and you actually want to increase with that flexibility, you have to stretch 5 to 10 times a day.
And I can see that.
So when you do 5 to 10 stretches a day and you go to that 4 out of 10 pain level, you will improve with flexibility, and you'll do it in a noticeable amount within about 4 to 5 weeks.
So when I get up in the morning and I do my morning stretch, because sometimes I get up in the morning and you're fairly young. I mean, you're early 30s, and me, I'm 57, going to be 58. You get up in the morning and sometimes you're a little bit, oh, God, stiff. You go to bed, nothing hurts. You get up in the morning and things hurt. And you're like, what the heck?
Sure.
That didn't hurt when I went to bed.
And part of
We'll
that
get
could
there.
be because you're not working out. You're not doing the things that you need to. Are you working
True.
out?
Oh, yeah.
It's always different when your trainer asks you, are you working out?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, obviously got to get you back in here.
Truly. Yes.
But
He asked
that
me
could
if
be
I
part of it.
run, and I just simply told him, I said, does it look like I run? I run if I'm being chased. Running is something I do out of necessity.
Which surprisingly, he gets chased a lot. It's
Yeah.
his stories. Oh my gosh.
Well,
that
you've been
guy
in the
in
liquor business for so many years. You
Yeah.
get some real wackos out
that
there.
guy in the knife the other day you were
Woof.
telling me about. That was crazy.
That was just some homeless freak who was drunk. Again, alcohol-related craziness.
yeah, that was
Just
crazy.
a homeless freak.
Poor guy.
He was
Poor
high
guy.
on something.
Well, and I feel bad for people like that because you know that there's, I don't know.
Well, you're
you
trying
don't,
to
you don't
attack a
know his
Jeep.
situation. You know what took him, that brought him there. But
Oh, I don't know, and I don't want to
and
know.
obviously he's not taking the right road to helping himself.
Truly.
But
Yeah,
and maybe, yeah, I don't know. That's a totally different
alcohol,
topic. But
big
yeah,
issue, bad problem. Truly.
we thank you for joining us here on Sean Ruins Fitness. I hope that you enjoyed our talk about stretching. We talked about a lot of different stretching issues. We talked about the PNF, the static stretching, the dynamic stretching, the hot tub, the stretching cold and warm, the frequency of it, how hard to stretch. So I hope that you have a better knowledge moving forward and what to, or at least how often to stretch and everything else. You can't really tell you what to stretch on this video because
Will there be a
that's
test on
kind
this
of
later?
unique. For you,
For
not
me,
not
PMF,
you.
I'm
Yeah.
lost. I failed. PMF, no idea.
So thank you again for joining us, Sean Ruins Fitness, and have a wonderfully healthy life.